So I think this right here is super relatable and has happened to at least all of us, all right? And it's the feeling whenever you buy something, and after that feeling of, oh my gosh, it's so cool, that feeling fades and you're like, yo, I just paid $1,200 for a phone, or I just paid so much money for this vacation, or I just paid so much money for this car or for this house, and it's that feeling of instant regret. And we all know for a fact when we're not supposed to buy something because basically we can't afford it, but at that moment, we find so many ways to justify buying it. Well, low interest rates, low monthly payments, I'll pay it off in 7 years or in 10 years, I'll pay off the credit card next month. So this video is for the person that I hope it's not too late for you and you're not like, oh my gosh, like in a bad situation. But if you have that feeling right now of regret with this car or with this house, I'm gonna break down exactly why it's a good idea to go ahead and sell those things, although it might be a little embarrassing, but it's a part of the game. And what it takes to be wealthy, it doesn't matter what other people think whatsoever. So you don't want to be like Uncle Charles with the very fancy name who drinks wine, has a Mercedes, and on top of that, he has a very nice wife. Well, I just said hot wife. And on top of that, he has this very nice house. But he is one paycheck away from being with Uncle Ted on the streets. And by the way, Uncle Ted is homeless, because Uncle Charles is basically up to here with all of his monthly payments every month, trying to sustain a lifestyle he knows for sure he cannot afford, but he is not willing to cut things down. So don't be Uncle Charles, okay? Be Uncle Ted for a while, be homeless for a while, but then you go, well, I say homeless, right? But you're actually gonna be renting or living with your parents or living somewhere else, okay? For a while you basically stack up cash to do things the right way. So in this video, I'm gonna break everything down. And as always, destroy the like button. I appreciate it a ton. If you're new here, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, because I do post videos every single week on money and investing, and it's bound to make you some money in some way. Now, here's the first thing, guys, okay? Marketing is a very powerful thing. So the first part is, let's break down exactly why I'm telling you to sell your car. And by the way, right now is a perfect time because cars are still selling for a good amount of money. So you can basically sell your car, pay off the loan, and potentially not have to pay anything whatsoever to cover the additional costs, okay? So that is a great opportunity. But overall, I see a lot of people blame it on marketing. Tommy, the reason I bought this fancy car is because I saw this fancy commercial and I saw this advertising. But in reality, we all know that we didn't just buy the car for its fancy safety features, because of the low interest rates, low monthly payments. No, we use all that information to justify buying something we know for sure we cannot afford. So the average person, they go ahead and they buy a car for $47,000. They're gonna pay it off in 5 to 7 years, and then be paying basically $700 a month in this car payment. And they always seem to forget this car comes with additional costs, additional bonuses, additional features, okay? And we call those, for example, insurance, maintenance, repairs, and everything else. And by the way, before you say in your head, yeah, but because I bought this new car or almost new car, I'm not gonna have that many repairs. You might say that, but you're also paying like $47,000 for something when you might buy something a lot more used that might break down, but it's not gonna it's not gonna cost you an additional $30,000 to fix any problem in a car. So that justification makes absolutely no sense. And by the way, I am very good at justifying things in my head, whether it's a vacation, whether it's buying something, but I always tend to snap out of it and say, hey, you're justifying it. You shouldn't buy this. Just chill out and relax. And by the way, one big thing is, guys, this costs people a lot of money in the future. Because, for example, if you're paying $700 for this car, right? Just by that logic, if you had invested that money per month, for example, 5 years of the car loan, that's actually what it is, right? At a 12% return, you would have around $59,000 invested. But by putting that money, for example, in a car, which is a liability, what happened is you just turned $50,000 into $20,000 or $25,000 if you're lucky. Meaning you just lost money, like half your money right there, like nothing. And by the way, if you put all of the other money, for example, on repairs, additional costs, also in investments, that would provide you with a bunch more money also. So logically speaking, the reason you sell your car is because basically you know when you can't afford something. So you know for a fact, yeah, I'm driving this very nice car, but in 5 years, it's not going to be that nice. Let's be real here. So in 5 years from now, you spent so much money on something that's going to lose a bunch of value. And the longer you wait, the less likely you're going to be able to sell it to grab all the money and pay off the loan completely, possibly, because this market is not going to last forever. And on top of that, you could be investing a bunch more money than you are, but you are putting this money into a car. Makes absolutely no sense. So overall, I like living by the sword. So I'll tell you what I like and what I drive right now and what I got and what the whole logic was. I wanted originally either a Tesla, a Mazda CX-5, or a Lexus, like very nice cars, like, or my favorite, a Lamborghini Urus. And by the way, I could have found a way to get those cars, okay? And because guess what? We are very good at justifying things. But eventually, you know what I said? I said, hey, this makes absolutely no sense. I'm gonna turn all this money into mush in a few years, okay? So what I did was this. I drive a Toyota Prius, I know, fancy and sexy, 2014, that I actually paid around $9,000 for in cash. Now, I had the cash to go ahead and pay for that car, but it's to say, I don't have any monthly payments whatsoever. I only have insurance and maintenance, and that's it. And even, for example, if I have a big repair, well, if I have a $2,000 repair, even if $5,000 repair on this car to bring it back up to standards, the answer is that is still far, far away from $30,000 extra to buy it new or $40,000 extra to buy another better new car or whatever. So there's no way to justify that. That's the point. So in reality, if what you can afford to do right now to buy in cash is a 1997 Toyota Corolla, you buy that car and you use that car. But guess what? It's your car. You own it. And by the way, I know the feeling of the downgrade. I know the feeling when you are known to have something and then people see you doing something else that's a lot cheaper, not that really cool. But I also know the feeling of seeing that happen in real life, like going from going to school with all the nice shoes, all the nice clothes, being fancy, to going with, for example, Goodwill clothes. And while I'm doing that, I'm stacking up so much money on the side that it just makes me feel a lot more fulfilled than all those things did before. So stop worrying about the eyes and worry about the pockets, okay? That's the important part. Now, here's why I'm telling you, number two, to sell your house, okay? A lot of us, we buy a home because basically we see that everyone else has a home. Your friends bought a home, your parents bought a home, everyone bought a home, and everyone seems to think that buying a home is a great investment and that renting is a waste of money. You're throwing money in a black hole and you're also making the landlord rich. It's not a good idea. And in reality, that logic makes sense long term, but in the short term, it doesn't make any sense. And here's why. Because renting is a service. So while you're able to rent, guess what? There's a lot of things you're not paying for. You're not the landlord, so you don't pay for the maintenance of the property, taxes, or any of that stuff. Okay, so you just pay that one service and that is it. And if you go ahead and you buy the fancy home, let's say for example like Uncle Charles, okay? He goes ahead, he buys this fancy, amazing, big home. He goes to the bank, they qualify him for a bunch of money, like nearly half his income, okay? And they go ahead, they take this entire thing, they give him this entire big loan, he goes shopping, buys his home, and now he has a $3,000, $4,000 payment per month with everything else he has to pay. But then in addition, he has all of this friction to his life because he has this big monthly payment, also his normal expenses and everything else. In reality, it becomes very hard to try to pay off the home a lot faster, to try to pay it off maybe with a few extra dollars because all your money is going to other things. In reality, you put way too much money in this home. Now, why do I say that a home is not an investment? Well, here's why. An investment is you putting your capital into something and getting an appropriate return over time. That's it, right? So you give me $1,000, I give you, for example, let's say $120 a year on it. That's a good return. Not that bad at all, okay? It's actually amazing. But overall, if I put my money in a house, right, and I have to spend a bunch of money on upkeep, on maintenance, and everything else, or repairs, okay, to maintain this home, because if you don't maintain a home, by the way, it deteriorates like crazy, then in reality, by the time my investment grows to X amount, I already spent X amount to keep it there. So in reality, it's not an investment, because although it might have grown by $100,000 in the next 15, well, 30 years on average for most people, guess what? In those 30 years, how much money do you think you spent, for example, on all the expenses associated with owning a home? Probably a lot more. And that's why I'm saying it's not an investment. Now, live by the sword. Tell me, what did you do when it came to buying a home? The answer is I used the comparing principle in my favor. All of us, we all compare ourselves to other people. It's called, for example, comparing yourself to the Joneses, I think it is. So you see your neighbor, they have a nice house, nice car, and you're like, oh, I want those things too. But I did that, but I flipped it on its head. I started to compare myself to the millionaires in America. So I said, for example, well, what do the average millionaire buy? And I read a book on it, and it's called Stop Acting Rich by Thomas J. Stanley. And he said, by the way, book is right here. And he said the average millionaire buys a home that's $300,000 or below, and that's no more than X of, for example, their annual income or whatever. And I figured out, well, what if I took that to another level? And I went ahead and I bought a home for $130,000. And on top of that, I also remodeled it to make it nice the way I want it, added an additional $50,000. Now that means, for example, I'm a lot lower than the average millionaire as far as how much I paid for this home overall together. So in total, I might be in for 180 or 190. But again, I also saved up money for a long time to have all the money that I needed in cash to buy the home in cash. Now I own this home, it's fully mine, and I don't have a monthly payment. And by the way, that's super powerful, because that is going to be the most expensive thing for the average person forever, because there's always going to be a shelter cost. But if you pay that off, then you basically have a bunch of free money, a lot less friction, and also a massive safety net by owning your own home. I've seen people that have gotten a mortgage for 30 years, and then they end up, for example, on the 25th year or 24th year. Not making this up. I heard a story like this just like a few days ago. And they basically lost the house because they lost their job, they couldn't pay, something happened, and then boom, they lost the house. So overall, what should be the idea when you buy a home? Don't go based on what the bank is going to lend you, because the bank wants to give you the most money that they possibly can and be safe and not take that much risk with you in order for you to buy this home paid off in 30 years and have a client for 30 years paying something. And because they're not paying, for example, the upkeep of the home and you're paying it to maintain it, guess what? They also have an asset that stays there and holds their value. So if you don't pay, they take the home and they sell it, okay? And they make their money back. That's the bank's game. That's not your game. Your game is, I want to own this home so I don't have this cost of living anymore, and I'm basically solid. Have less friction, less expenses, and that's awesome. So the idea is you buy it on a 15-year mortgage, okay? Because you want to limit the amount of money you're going to spend on the house. If you, for example, it's like when you're going to buy a car, and you're like, well, this car on a 5-year note, I can't afford it. But on a 7-year note, because the monthly payment is going to be lower, I can afford it, right? But if you limit it to a 15-year mortgage, the houses you can afford are going to be a lot less and also a lot cheaper. That's the goal. To own is the goal, not to have in partnership with the bank for 30 years and have something bigger like Uncle Charles, but then be homeless if something goes wrong. Now, you limit it to a 15-year mortgage. And then on top of that, you buy a home that with, for example, the mortgage payments, the taxes, the insurance, PMI potentially, or HOA, everything combined and maintenance in this property, everything combined monthly is no more than 33% of your monthly income. Now, if you do this correctly, so you buy this home where it's no more than 30% of your monthly income, and it's also on a 15-year mortgage, guess what? You have 67% of your income on the side to basically say, hey, I can live off of this much, but I can also take, for example, 10 to 15% to go ahead and basically pay off this home a lot faster. So you know how you know if you should be selling your home right now? The answer is if you can't afford to invest anything whatsoever, if you can't afford to pay a little extra to the home whatsoever, and if you just know for a fact you can't afford it, like you know when something is stressing you out because it's costing you so much money. I know what that feels like, okay? So whenever you know that feeling, then you say, well, understand that right now we are in a great market theoretically for a little bit longer as far as housing market to say, hey, I can go ahead and sell this home for more than I bought it, cut my losses, move back in with my parents, or get an apartment, or rent a room, or just be with Uncle Ted in my car for a while, okay? That's the entire idea. Now that's rough, okay? Because you go from having this lifestyle to having this lifestyle. And that's fine, because the goal is to have this lifestyle, but to be able to afford it. Not be up here, not affording it, and not be down here because you're basically not doing anything, but it's to have a good, proper lifestyle and be able to afford it. And remember, the average person is never going to do this. Never going to sell the car, never going to sell the house, because there's a lot of ego in place, okay? Now, here's a lesson that I learned here. The less friction you have in life, the easier it's going to be to accomplish your goals. So if you have no car payments, no credit card payments, no crazy mortgage payments, you have a lot more free cash flow, free money in your pocket to do a lot more things that you basically want to do. And once you cover those grounds where you have, for example, a paid off car, which is a massive deal, you have a paid off home potentially in the next 7 to 10 years or 15 years, the answer is you have all this free money to go on those vacations that you want to go on and to do whatever you want to do. And guess what? Because you did that 15 years earlier or 20 years earlier than the average person, you have a lot of time to go ahead and enjoy life too. And that to me is awesome. And second, minority mindset is a real thing, but in reverse. People think that the minority is usually not really the cool people. But in reality, this mindset of paying something off a lot faster, paying cash for something, not relying on instant gratification, all this stuff, is the minority mindset. And is how you have, for example, the average millionaire. So to be a part of this group, you have to think not like the masses, but think like the minority. And overall, guys, I want to remind you guys something, okay? We live in a country where we spend the most money and we save the least, because people live by this idea of, why would I save money when getting credit is so easy? Why would I save money when I can just pay it off in 7 years or 10 years or 15 years or 30 years? That mindset is crazy. Nobody thinks about owning. They think about having. And those are two very different things. So if you made it all the way to this point of this video, I want you to comment down below car, so I know you're a real person, and then post your comment and let me know exactly what you thought about this video. And let me know, are you gonna sell this car? Or are you gonna sell this house? Now I got lucky, okay? I had to sell my computer because it was like, this is massive, it's expensive, it makes no sense, I sold it. And I've had to sell things in the past, like my whole sneaker collection, all of my clothes, because it made no sense and I couldn't really afford it back then. And I was like, I'm done with this stuff, it's just holding me back. But I haven't had to sell my car because I did it the right way. And I'm not gonna have to sell my house because I did it the right way. So it's a lot better to do something the right way and not have to worry about losing it, like the Bible says, than it is, for example, to buy something that you can't afford and then end up, for example, being at risk of losing it at any moment. So I'd rather have something that's mine and I can afford it and it's no risk of losing it, than have something that I can't afford and it's like, I might lose it at any moment. That's not a good feeling, okay? But thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Comment down below any questions. And as always, long-term team officially out. More videos right here. This video right here is about the 33% rule in full. And this right here is my face. Click and subscribe. And as always, peace.